Okay, guys, have a seat. We're gonna get started like every day. Start with your writing today. You're gonna need your notebooks out. We're gonna be writing notes today, so we need oh, the clicker over there? Okay.
Try and change the slide. Aha! Dang it.
What's going on with it?
Oh, nothing. It's just, I was trying to do something over here. Okay, try.
Okay, works.
I will write stuff on my
Okay. Oh, yes, we changed the seating chart.
Hold on, I can help. If you're over here. Hey, Lacey, you're over
Not top right, that's Sebastian. You're next to Josie. Okay. Alright. Looks like we got it all. Okay, go ahead and turn to your neighbor and tell them your answer to question number 2. Okay, discuss.
Energy and environment.
People lose jobs. How would you react if you emotionally? Oh, it says if you lost your jobs. Okay, you got it. I read like. Okay.
I don't know where that came from. People fired me.
Okay,
People fired me.
where do you go to church?
Yeah,
Eyes up here, guys.
exactly.
What's that?
I would probably. I don't know where that came from. I apologize.
So some sort of government support. Okay, Luke, what did you guys talk about? For the answer to question number 2. You want me to come back to you?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. Let's see, Addison, what did you and Daniel talk about? Yeah, you expect government to start building some jobs. Okay, these are all good answers. We're going to turn to our notes section. We're going to take some notes and watch a video before our activity today. So, yesterday we talked about the end of World War I. Okay, so we're going to check in with our main players. So Britain and France. building. And overall, they're enjoying relative peace. They've been getting reparations from Germany. So they're getting a steady flow of income, and their population is trying to recover. Okay. Now over in Germany, things are not going as well. So, do you guys remember talking about Friedrich Ebert? He was the guy who took over after Kaiser Wilhelm abdicated. He sets up this thing called the Weimar Republic. So it's still a united Germany, but it's now a republic instead of being loyal to a Kaiser. Okay. The first thing they do after the Treaty of Versailles is they get to work implementing it. So they shrink their army. And they start paying their reparations. Now, this is a huge embarrassment for a lot of German nationalists. So nationalism is still growing strong. And they are not happy about being blamed for the war, about losing the war, and about having to pay the consequences for the war. Everyone got this? Can I erase it? Okay, I'll give you guys another minute. So, while this is all happening, sorry guys, we see a huge rise in inflation. The German economy is struggling. I'll show you guys a helpful graph in a minute, but with all of this paying reparations, and they've lost all of their colonies, which was a major stream of income, their economy is on its last legs. And it's going to be this way for about the entire interwar period. Now, what did the German government do about inflation? Well, let me put an arrow here. They just thought, let's print more money. Okay. Turn to your partners and talk about why that might not be a great idea to handle inflation. Nothing.
Well, if you do it, if like a select amount of people have lost more money and they use it like a little bit at a time, it probably won't affect the economy that much. Except those people have like lots of stuff.
I'm hearing some good answers. Lacey, you had a good one. You had a good one.
If few people have a lot of money, like printed money, and they use it a little bit at a time, then it's not going to affect the economy because they'll be like super rich and all this stuff. But if everybody has a lot of money, then there's no balance, then everything's going to go up in prices.
Exactly. Money loses its value. So in Germany, inflation is bad. They print more money. It gets worse. What do they do next? They print even more money. I know. This is where we get hyperinflation. So this is around the end of the war. One gold mark, so they were held to like the gold standard, which stabilized the value of money. When they keep printing paper money, eventually the value of one gold mark is now 1 trillion paper bills. Which is where you see all of these stacks and stacks of money. There were stories of people who had suitcases and wheelbarrows full of money just to go buy bread from the store. So this gets bad. And as you can see, this only goes up to 1923. The interwar period lasts until 1939-ish. So what do they do between then? They print more money. Now, the German people are so upset with their government. I think we all would be too. So the German people are searching for new leadership. So at this point in the Weimar Republic, Germany has a president, a chancellor, which is kind of like a prime minister, and parliament. The chancellor is basically like the head of parliament. He kind of enacts the president as well. So, this goes up to 1923. In 1929, the U.S. stock market crashes, which leads to the Great Depression. This is because Europe had lots of investments in U.S. business. So it spreads to Europe as well. So Europe is losing lots of money. We see 1 in 5 people are unemployed. And industrialization goes down by 40%. Tons of people are out of jobs, and tons of people start to go hungry. What do you guys think this does to Germany? Talk to your partners about it.
Can you shut up?
Real? Okay. Nicole,
Makes
wanna
sense,
share?
actually.
What we talked about?
Wouldn't it?
Oh, we have nothing left to lose. That's a good prediction. I like that. Okay. This unhappiness amongst the German people and people all over Europe leads to the rise of fascism. So in order to talk about why it's important, we have to understand what it is. I'm sure you guys have heard this word before. It's a big term. Fascism is like if nationalism and militarism had a baby. Okay. Fascism, we're going to define it as an authoritarian state, meaning the ruler has all power. Authoritarian state controlled by a dictator. Now, this idea spreads all across Europe. Since so many governments were weakened after the Great War, people are looking for a strong government. So when you think about, where's my clicker? When you think about fascism, personally the first thing I think of is Adolf Hitler.
Ooh, Adolf
Men have
Hitler in
shorts.
shorts.
I know.
Problem. I don't like that at all.
He deserves to be, these pictures deserve to be shown.
What a weird, like, LL Bean category.
Right? This is all from like one photo shoot.
Look at those socks. Sexy socks, everyone. That's upsetting. I don't like it.
Yeah, if you're ever feeling down, you can at least know that you probably look better than Adolf Hitler wearing shorts. Alright, so Hitler.
That's gross.
Then we'll start posing.
It's
like-
And then leaning against a tree.
Just a little
Right?
ankle.
Imagine being a photographer being like, okay, can we get like. Okay. Alright, eyes up here, guys. Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany in 1933. So he's not the president, but he does lead parliament, who makes all the laws. And the year he becomes chancellor, they pass the Enabling Act. This is also 1933. So the year he becomes chancellor, the Enabling Act. This basically allows him to pass laws without permission from parliament or the president. It basically gives him permission to override the German constitution. So this gives him basically all power. And 3 months later, all political parties except the Nazi Party are banned. 3 months later. So we see pretty immediate effects. He gets his power and he runs with it. So this is in 1933. Does anyone remember when World War II begins? Yes.
1939.
1939. So in 6 years, he goes from being a chancellor to being, basically, to starting a war. So he's actually pretty popular at this time. And we're gonna watch a brief video on his rise to power. I will erase that too, thanks. Just love those pictures. It's so good. Okay. Can we press play? It's not letting me on here. Yes. This is just 5 minutes.
How did Adolf Hitler, a tyrant who orchestrated one of the largest genocides in human history, rise to power in a democratic country? The story begins at the end of World War I. With the successful Allied advance in 1918, Germany realized the war was unwinnable and signed an armistice ending the fighting. As its imperial government collapsed, civil unrest and worker strikes spread across the nation. Fearing a communist revolution, major parties joined to suppress the uprisings, establishing the parliamentary Weimar Republic. One of the new government's first tasks was implementing the peace treaty imposed by the Allies. In addition to losing over 1/10 of its territory and dismantling its army, Germany had to accept full responsibility for the war and pay reparations, debilitating its already weakened economy. All this was seen as a humiliation by many nationalists and veterans. They wrongly believed the war could have been won if the army hadn't been betrayed by politicians and protesters. For Hitler, these views became obsession, and his bigotry and paranoid delusions led him to pin the blame on Jews. His words found resonance in a society with many anti-Semitic people. By this time, hundreds of thousands of Jews had integrated into German society, but many Germans continued to perceive them as outsiders. After World War I, Jewish success led to ungrounded accusations of subversion and war profiteering. It cannot be stressed enough that these conspiracy theories were born out of fear, anger, and bigotry, not fact. Nonetheless, Hitler found success with them. When he joined a small nationalist political party, his manipulative public speaking launched him into its leadership and drew increasingly larger crowds. Combining anti-Semitism with populist resentment, the Nazis denounced both communism and capitalism as international Jewish conspiracies to destroy Germany. The Nazi Party was not initially popular. After they made an unsuccessful attempt at overthrowing the government, the party was banned, and Hitler jailed for treason. But upon his release about a year later, he immediately began to rebuild the movement. And then, in 1929, the Great Depression happened. It led to American banks withdrawing their loans from Germany, and the already struggling German economy collapsed overnight. Hitler took advantage of the people's anger, offering them convenient scapegoats and a promise to restore Germany's former greatness. Mainstream parties proved unable to handle the crisis, while left-wing opposition was too fragmented by internal squabbles. And so, some of the frustrated public flocked to the Nazis, increasing their parliamentary votes from under 3% to over 18% in just 2 years. In 1932, Hitler ran for president, losing the election to decorated war hero General von Hindenburg. But with 36% of the vote, Hitler had demonstrated the extent of his support. The following year, advisors and business leaders convinced Hindenburg to appoint Hitler as chancellor, hoping to channel his popularity for their own goals. Though the chancellor was only the administrative head of parliament, Hitler steadily expanded the power of his position. While his supporters formed paramilitary groups and fought protesters in the streets, Hitler raised fears of a communist uprising and argued that only he could restore law and order. Then, in 1933, a young worker was convicted of setting fire to the parliament building. Hitler used the event to convince the government to grant him emergency powers. Within a matter of months, freedom of the press was abolished. Other parties were disbanded, and anti-Jewish laws were passed. Many of Hitler's early radical supporters were arrested and executed, along with potential rivals. And when President Hindenburg died in August 1934, it was clear there would be no new election. Disturbingly, many of Hitler's early measures didn't require mass repression. His speeches exploited people's fear and ire to drive their support behind him and the Nazi Party. Meanwhile, businessmen and intellectuals wanting to be on the right side of public opinion endorsed Hitler. They assured themselves and each other that his more extreme rhetoric was only for show. Decades later, Hitler's rise remains a warning of how fragile democratic institutions can be in the face of angry crowds and a leader willing to feed their anger and exploit their fears.
Okay, turn to your partner and tell them one interesting thing that you didn't know before that you learned from the video.
Yeah, actually, so they were yeah, so I'm not gonna answer that.
Fashion. There we go. Okay, I heard some good answers. Let's see, Bella, what'd you guys talk about?
We talked about how we climbed up the political ladder so fast, and then also how we went to jail and we still was able to like.
Yeah, not many people have ever heard that about Hitler. Let's see, what else do I have? Gracie?
We didn't know that he changed our borders. I thought he just
Yeah, crazy. He was like an actual politically designated leader. Let's see. Anybody else want to share before we move to the news? Okay. So we're going to be talking about fascism in Italy. So this starts a little bit before it's implemented in Germany. And it starts with a man named Benito Mussolini. So Mussolini he's the prime minister, technically, of Italy. And they formed the Fascist Party in 1919. And it's literally called that. It's the Fascist Party. So he's kind of giving it a name. In 1922, yes?
Can I tell them where the name comes from?
Yeah.
So the word fascio, which is what they're named after, is a bundle of sticks, and it was represented, it was a Roman republic symbol, because if you have a bunch of sticks, if I have a stick, I can break it. But if I put a bunch of sticks together and tie them together, can I break it?
Not as well.
Not as well, and that's the idea. If we all work together, right, unified, then we're stronger. So he uses that symbol, that word, to represent his new political party, which he calls the Fascists.
Okay, in 1922, thousands of young men march on Rome in protest. In protest of what exactly? Of the king. So the king is like, hey, parliament or advisors, what do I do? And they tell him, enact martial law. Does anyone here know what martial law is? Okay, so martial law is a sort of emergency power system where the leader can theoretically, temporarily take over and use the military and stuff like that to control the country a little bit more in a state of emergency. So they're like, hey, declare martial law. He's like, actually, I'm gonna abdicate, which means he kind of quits. Let me spell words right. Abdicate. And says, hey, Mussolini, you can actually be the leader. He just gives it up. It does not take much convincing.
Whoa.
And Mussolini's like, oh, I didn't expect that to be that easy. And he starts enacting fascist policies. So they ban interracial marriage. They start building the military. And one really funny thing I found while I was researching, getting my lesson ready, is that they had a policy where young men who did not have any children were taxed to pay for child welfare policies. So it's like, if you're a man, you're not having kids, well, you're gonna pay for them. So it's kind of an incentive to build up fascist Italy. We'll get more into Mussolini on Monday as we talk about the start of World War II. But for now, we're gonna move on to Russia. So Russia, it's Joseph Stalin. So Stalin's actually not Russian. I'm gonna go over here by the map. He's actually from a little country called Georgia. Not the state, but it is spelled the same, which is, you know, right here, by Turkey. And he built up a reputation in communist circles before the revolution as somewhat of like a brutal gangster. He's kind of like a hitman. But eventually he gets in good with a lot of the Red Army generals. And eventually he rises through the ranks and becomes a general himself. And he is extremely brutal in his tactics. He wipes out thousands of opponents of the Communist Party. So, after his sort of military era, he becomes friends with Vladimir Lenin. We talked about him a bit yesterday. He was the guy that led the Bolsheviks in revolution in 1917. And right now, he's the leader of the Communist Party. Yeah, Lenin.
No, like.
No, so this is VL, yeah, Vladimir. So, yeah, so he's Vladimir Lenin's general secretary, which kind of feels like a slap in the face after, you know, leading an army. But he's kind of a smart political guy. He's able to expand the powers of his position in the years that he serves under Lenin, and Lenin trusts him implicitly. But eventually, Lenin dies of a stroke. And everyone's wondering, well, who's going to lead the Communist Party now? And Joseph Stalin has one man up against him that could possibly beat him, and that's a guy named Leon Trotsky. Trotsky's pretty popular. He's a charismatic speaker. People like him. People don't like Stalin as much because he's, you know, kind of a more stoic military man. But Trotsky is well loved by the people. So what does Stalin do? He runs him out of the country. He puts him into exile. And eventually he kills him. So with Trotsky out of the way, he takes over the Communist Party in 1924. And with that brand new power, he starts what's called the Great Terror. We'll put this over here. So the Great Terror is where he orders the secret police, they're called the NKVD at this time. Great Terror. So the NKVD, which is the secret police. He has them track down his political enemies. He has them track down his political enemies and slaughter them. And about he must have had a lot of enemies. Because about 700,000 to 1.2 million people died. Man, I just think about after all of like the 3 million people they lost in the war, it's like, can we really afford to lose more people? Apparently they can't. So this many people died. Have you guys heard of gulags? Gulags, like the Siberian prisons? Well, he starts with a bunch of those. Gulags. And they are prisons built for political prisoners. And thousands of people are sent to the gulags to either work or die, or work to die. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering why 1.2 million died already.
Huh?
Like, why was there so many dead?
So, basically, he sent the secret police after anyone who opposed him, all of his political enemies, people that were even suspected of disagreeing with them, and they were put through mock trials of, they weren't real, you know, they weren't real legal proceedings. They were just meant to convict people and then get them executed. Yeah, Josie?
You wrote polite, not police.
Oh my gosh! I was gonna write political and police at the same time. They're secretly polite. They were not polite. Okay. Did I mess you up, Jeter? My bad. Okay. So the Great Terror lasts several years. So it's not like they all died at once, but it's still a lot of people. So about 1 million people die, and even more are sent to the gulags and eventually die. You sound like a good guy. So, during this rise of fascism, Am I good to erase this stuff on this side of the board? Ready? Okay. So, while these fascist governments are getting really popular, you might be like, well, why do people listen to them? They're doing all this bad stuff. Why do they get so popular? How do they get so powerful? And one of the answers is propaganda. We talked a little bit about propaganda, I believe, like a week or two ago. So just a brief refresher. Tell your partners what you would consider propaganda. Define it.
I'd say that most cases it's a word rhetoric used to persuade someone in a specific direction.
I learned what that like word existed this year.
Rhetoric?
Rhetoric.
Like people use rhetoric now.
Oh,
Rhetoric.
that's a good word. I like that, Lacey. Okay.
I still don't know.
Okay, I heard some good responses. Daniel, I really liked what you said. Can you share?
I said anything that makes a political figure viewed in a better light or a worse light than they already are.
Yeah, I like that. Is propaganda exclusive to political figures, like in favor of politicians? No, but not all propaganda is like the evil lies. You know, the really famous poster of Uncle Sam was like, I want you to enlist. That's propaganda. So it just kind of depends on how you frame it. So we're gonna look at some propaganda posters. I want you to look at this for a minute and then tell your partner who you think the audience might be, what's the purpose of this, what's the context behind it. Okay, go.
I don't know.
Sounds like you're buying a
That's what I said.
Okay. Okay, what do you guys think? Let's see, Kennedy.
I couldn't really see it from back here, but
Is this thanks buying British has put me in a job?
yeah, we said that it was like if you have a hat, then you have a job.
Yeah? Let's see, who else? Rachel, what'd you talk about? What'd you guys discuss about the poster? Brittany! Oh my goodness. This seating chart.
Well, I think he's meant to like convey a message of buying something that's British, just put somebody into a job.
Exactly. So what time period do you think this guy, you think this poster came out?
Like,
Exactly. It's probably a Great Depression era poster. Okay, now this one. You guys don't recognize him. This is Vladimir Lenin. This is a Soviet propaganda poster. What might this poster be trying to tell us, guys? Just look at it for a minute. Yeah? What does it tell you about like communism in Russia at this time? Can you say it a little louder, Zoe? It's a big thing. So this one, I translated the German. It says, it's like, let it go, free yourself. Vote Hitler. Take a minute to look at this, look at the artwork, look at how it's portraying support of Hitler, and discuss it with your partner.
I think things that were pretty nice for generations.
Yep, what's up?
Things that are like wasted to us. You know what I'm saying? I saw this video of the guy and his dad was way and he comes to me.
I want us have enough time to get through our activities, so I'm just gonna. Oh, I like this last one. This last one is kind of cool. This is an American one. It says "Hunger breeds madness." Just take it in for a minute and then talk about what you see, what you think it might be talking about. Does America's food must save the world? So think about who made this, why, and what it's trying to tell us. Okay?
And also that you don't No.
Not really.
What they
Oh, maybe to go.
Well, yeah, look, he's
Woodrow Wilson.
Okay. Anyone want to share what they talked about? I heard some good stuff from us in the middle. Josie, do you want to tell us what you talked about?
We talked about how, like, the little boy is starving and the mom's, like, grieving over them, and then the dad is like, I'm gonna go kill somebody.
Yes. What might that be trying to tell us about the Great Depression era?
That, like, they're losing everything, so they're willing to do whatever they can because they're gonna die anyway.
Exactly. So how are we gonna stop it?
Gonna share food.
Yeah, you've got a responsibility to help stop this. Okay, so we're gonna do a little activity. We're gonna be in groups of 4, so you guys in the front just turn your desks around. And you guys are gonna get to make your own propaganda posters. You're gonna be propaganda masters. You guys can be like 2 groups of 3. First, you guys need to come up with a good slogan. Then you're gonna come up with a good drawing, and then I have like crayons and colored pencils and stuff for you guys to help with.
Convince people of.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Okay, so possible things you can make about the Great Depression, you can make about nationalism, just make sure it's school appropriate, and it has to be related to one of the concepts that we learned today.
Okay, so what's our slogan?
We need to have a powerful message slogan.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Wait,
I got this.
does it have to be not anything? Like anything with something in the way? Sweet.
Actually, you guys have to say.
Oh,
sorry. No, no.
This is like ocean.
Anything that we learned about in this class, so like
What if we just make it black and white?
Something about how freedom of press means freedom for social media too.
Yes.
What's it gonna be about?
Just has to be convincingly yes. School appropriate. Yes.
Do we have to do anything about propaganda, or do we have to be?
You guys have to share the great.
Like, do we have to
Just make
You
sure
can make it against.
no
That's what you were
Nazi
saying,
style
right?
activities.
Go against if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go against for sure.
Oh, so no, like going with.
You ban content on social media.
No, we don't want
It could be something like
not with us.
Okay, I was like.
not freedom of the press. Something on social media.
It could be anti.
So I feel like you're like
Pro
a.
hit.
Would you like
Social media.
we just like make. What if we do?
freedom of the press, freedom to post. And then like fine print, maybe not fine print.
No.
Wait, I'm gonna grab a ruler.
There's no fun. Propaganda. Defeats the point of propaganda.
Hey, do you have a ruler? You look like you have You look like you'd have a bendy ruler.
You do. Like a fancy one.
Okay, so wait, what's our slogan?
You can draw a straight line.
Freedom of the press, freedom to post, stop your blocking. Do it on like a public thing on social media.
Let's make it like
So you could do like freedom of the press and then little print means freedom to post.
Do freedom, okay, so good one. I like it.
I got markers. Wait, maybe we should say something about how banning, I mean, like, blocking. Yeah, I got one.
What about that in front?
Yeah.
Freedom of the press.
Okay,
It's not.
I trust you. I trust you.
It's ours good. Like say yours, like go to the military.
Ever play Settlers in Catan?
Yeah, that's a
For
great
some
idea.
reason, whenever I play Settlers in Catan, there's exactly 4 cities. You know what the cities look like? Settlers? Yeah, you can connect.
What would you do if I looked at Denny and just started eating his crayon? Lazy.
Do it.
No.
I'll just give you the word.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
No.
I join you.
It doesn't
About
really
like
need to
10
stop
minutes,
that,
guys.
but
Make sure you at least have your
So
slogan.
we're making a swastika.
freedom, press.
That was when I in World War I.
Oh my gosh, we were going through the questions I got wrong, like we were going over them. Anyway, and I was literally, I saw the answer, and then I looked at like my answer sheet and what I put, and I'm like, I didn't put the right answer. Why did I not put the right answer?
Thank you.
I know, like, what's your guys' you guys come up with something yet?
I'm coming up with a
Why?
Okay, so you're doing, you have the
No, it's
concept,
fine.
you're doing the drawing,
No, it's
and the
just-
slogan.
Oh yeah, we like snacks with wood flag.
Freedom of the press.
Freedom to post.
As Tate McRae would say.
Do the means the same way, like your means freedom to post.
Right here.
But
And we could put an
freedom to
iPhone
post
here.
first, then we can.
Don't be a Nazi or Nazi.
Oh.
That's a good one.
You know in bio when we ask like for ourselves thing is like what like the cell membrane is like this or whatever. Ask ChatGPT. My theme
I know what.
Searching up their like documents on.
my theme was Alright, here's a list of parts of organelles in the cell. What Avenger goes to each one? Explain why. I don't even like cheat. Exactly. It's like always to save time. And that is what I'm like. Even then, I don't have it right. I say, give me an outline. Give me an outline. Give me an
Well,
idea.
but
No,
two
post
posts.
is right here.
Yeah, no, yeah, just do two posts. This is a little bit. The 2 posts is a little bit longer. So it's fine.
Of the press and the freedom to post. So if I
I do like the slogan.
I think. What if we don't?
Wait, no, means.
Alright guys, you have a little over 5 minutes left.
Don't vote for
That actually might be quite makes it so red like it's big blood. Yeah, it's like
That works so well.
because red. There, I'll start coloring.
Oh guys, don't forget to write your names on them.
And I have a red. You take every single one from the red.
We could just do like Nazism.
Love it.
Love it. Love it, Josie.
Hey, you know what sounds really nice right now?
Okay, let's do that.
That's like a really good slogan.
Buddy, the word.
I like it.
Freedom of press, freedom of Okay, then draw a spell, and then we'll color that.
Oh.
Do we have it like on a TikTok?
Nice. I like it.
Honestly, to make it easier for you, you just do like a social media layout, but then have it blocked. So just like strikes through, scribble.
Yes, or like
So you don't
when
actually have
stuff
to
is
write
actually
anything.
blocked, it has like blocked and then like little buttons that say CY. I mean, what?
No, we don't have to put this in.
Make it you guys
So yeah, do like a social media layout, but don't actually write it.
I might have
Always
to.
like block it out. Just like a really blurry
So
image
try
or
to get as much
something,
done.
or like an outline of something.
At least like when you mind, get your slogan. You did what
I think we should choose somebody to watch.
And we need dark color.
That was
Deep blue. Where are you going?
Crayon.
Do like a social media layout, but then just block the
I will color.
So like that one. So like.
Oh, okay.
Share with like a caption, like a
You
social
know-
media layout.
Oh.
But then don't actually write anything, or don't actually write anything in the picture, just put block on it. But make it look like we're in a social media.
Oh, so you guys are doing like a more like a modern
Yeah.
propaganda. I like it.
Oh, we just need some color done.
That's cool.
Oh, I
Pretty
need
good
to
design.
Which one?
I like it. I like it.
Just a big box, like a little block that.
It's square.
Our social media platform.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't.
You're gonna make everything as annoying as possible.
And then do the start of another one down there.
You could use
Goes off.
How do I screw up that bad?
Everything is kind of taken.
Yes. Wait, they should have a concern spot. That'd be funny.
And then we go.
What?
Oh, I don't know. It's not a word. Dude, why is it so?
No, I like
No,
I
no,
like
too
it.
late, too late.
It's gonna make the way I make it feel bad.
I know. I was wondering what you were doing. Sebastian's doing good.
Do I do it?
Way to make me feel bad.
I think it's a specific choice that we have the blocked in red and no color like anywhere else because it'll stand out.
That is
No,
so
but-
deep.
Do a great photo. And maybe out loud.
Not.
Not mine. I only outlined it. Still screwed up.
Well, that was good.
Make sure you get your slogan on there.
Yeah, outline the freedom
the
in
red
red.
deck.
Freedom in red.
Wanna write the slogan?
What is it again?
I don't want those colors anymore.
Should we say Nazis or just that?
I don't like. Yeah, you guys have like 1 minute, so go ahead and start cleaning up your supplies. I'll put the stool out at the front. You can just put your posters on the stool. Wait, do we do it? Okay? Might be a good idea. Go ahead and pack up.
I like it.